And the idea for this premise for this demo is to start working with eyes open as an option. So yeah, just to shift out of the way we've been developing and learning the practice into something more more like other kinds of interactions, and how we might continue staying with our felt sense and not necessarily needing to keep our eyes closed in order to do that. So this is something that we would like for us to start playing with this weekend. This idea of eyes open, eyes closed. Can we stay with our focusing process and stay in the room and stay seeing the other? So it's just something to lightly start playing with. We would encourage that this weekend. Great. So Greg, is there anything you would like specifically in terms of my reflecting back?
I would like you to, that's my dog, which is interesting because that's the issue. I would like you to, feel free to offer in whatever you want. Notice somebody else has appeared there. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many minutes would you like at the end?
I think 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So this is something that I want to take it slow because it's, I can feel it already.
It's here already.
Interesting. It feels different than it did this morning. I was out walking my dog, as usual. My young, very exuberant dog. And I want to tell you a little bit about it first. It's important for me that I know that you know the context. And he's about 8.5 months. So he's gotten quite big, but he is still very much a puppy. And he runs over and greets everyone. I can't seem to stop that, but he's finally learned that not every dog likes to be greeted, but he still runs over and likes to say hello to everybody. He's very democratic that way. I mean, he doesn't leave anyone out, which is a nice quality. And most people really like being greeted because his whole body wags and he's obviously very harmless. And if people don't like it, he normally just walks away. This morning, though, we were out and had, met a few other people and dogs, and we're out in a big field, a big dog walking area. And this young mother was there with 2 little girls. And my dog, Elliot, went running up to say hello to them. And one of the girls really panicked and was really scared. And of course, her kind of expressiveness made he thought, oh, this is play. So he kind of was sniffing around, wagging his tail. He didn't leave, and I was calling him back because I could see that she was actually distressed and he wouldn't come back. And it took me a while to actually get him back. And then another puppy came over and started kind of sniffing around and playing. And this poor young girl was obviously really terrified. The other girl was fine. And the mother was kind of trying to comfort the girl, and I was trying to get Elliot away. And it was just awful. I found the situation very upsetting.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting response, which I can still feel. And it's a mixture of I mean, I felt for Elliot as well because he didn't realize he was doing anything wrong. And when we got home, he went into his crate and was kind of quiet, as though he knew
Mm-hmm.
something was not right.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of comforting himself in his crate.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of leaving him alone and trying to understand my own feeling.
Yeah. This
And it
just
was,
awful. This just
yeah,
awful feeling.
it was absolutely awful. I just thought this poor young girl, and other dog walkers came up to me and said, well, what are they doing walking, in a place that's full of dogs
Mm-hmm.
and dogs off lead?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was thinking, well, they were saying things that kind of made me feel a little bit better. And although there's some truth to that, it didn't really touch my full response.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And that's what I'm sitting with, is this big response of it's moved on. At first, it was this upset plus trying to justify myself,
Mm-hmm.
plus blaming myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It had all these pluses in it. There's this plus this plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the blame. I think it's the blaming myself. Like, if I hadn't had him off lead, it would never have happened.
Mm-hmm.
If I had trained him better, I mean, his recall is probably about 50-50. If there's anything more exciting than me going on, he won't come back. And of course, a screaming girl is much more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, blaming myself was a big
Mm-hmm.
part of the turmoil in me.
Yeah. Is that something you can just be with a bit more? The blaming yourself.
It doesn't seem, a minute ago that did feel like the closest thing. Now it's not. It's different feeling right here.
Mm.
It's partly the experience of telling you, and that already feels a little bit better
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because I'm telling you without, I don't want all of the excuses.
Right.
I want to take some responsibility,
Yeah.
but not have it tip over into unreasonable blame.
Right.
I mean, the father came as well. So these parents knew that their child was so scared of dogs, and yet they saw all of these dogs around before Elliot went over.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of think, well, they have some responsibility for bringing her to this area, and after seeing all the dogs around, not kind of just going off to one side or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. They saw what was going on. They saw there were other dogs there. And
mhm.
there's something about excuses and for you not wanting to make excuses.
Yeah, and that feels a little bit like an excuse for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's not where the action is, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah. So I want to just tune into the feeling itself, almost like a slight burning.
Yeah. There's a slight burning here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a word that almost comes. It's almost like I get this image of a younger me that feels bad
Uh-huh.
and feels innocent at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, it's a really funny,
Yeah.
slightly confusing mix.
Yeah. Younger you that feels bad and innocent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a combination of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so difficult, is it has these very um, contradictory elements.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it feels in my body is almost like maybe not burning, more like kind of acidic almost, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, something acidic here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not burning, but it's almost acidic.
And the thing that actually brings some relief is this is kind of like almost like a wake-up call. You know, the time is now to get my dog's recall so perfect that he doesn't go running up to people that don't want to have a dog running up to them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that kind of taking responsibility that actually doesn't feel like blaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this wake-up call goes beyond blaming. It's about
Exactly.
something else, like
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, is it's teasing apart something that can get collapsed in me.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility and blame.
Right.
And this is kind of, starting to separate those.
Yeah, there's something different here. And you lean back as you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it kind of moving up and
this wake-up call as a moving back. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost has a very slight edge of care for me in it as well. Because it was a horrible experience for me. I mean, a horrible experience for the young girl, upsetting for the mother. Horrible experience for me because of feeling it was my fault.
Yeah.
All the other dog walkers were like reassuring me. And Elliot was pretty unaffected.
Yeah. You were the one that was really affected.
Well, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want my dog to be scaring. People that are afraid of dogs have a right to be out.
Yeah.
And I don't want my dog to be, ruining their experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Something clear about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that I don't want to be in that situation. Like, I feel like saying, I don't want to be in that situation ever again.
Okay. Yeah, there's an ever again.
Yeah.
To this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're coming up to our last 2 minutes.
Okay.
We're just checking if there's anything else that this
never again feels, although there's a part of me that thinks realistically that's not going to be true, but it feels good to say, like, no, never again. Like, that's just wrong. So I'm just noticing what it feels like. Yeah, it feels quite I guess one of the experiences was that I felt so helpless trying to get Elliot back on the lead.
Yeah.
And saying never again and saying get some help with training now. I mean, I have been training him, but obviously it hasn't been working. That feels a little empowering. And that's a lot better than feeling helpless and the despair of, not being able to do anything. It's like, yeah, actually there's something I can do.
Yeah, there's something you can do.
Yeah, that feels much better. That's a good place to let it settle. Yeah, that feels, it settles all the way down into my stomach.
Yeah. So
there's something I can do.
There is something you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Hi, so for a couple of minutes, we're just going to be exploring how was that from the listener's perspective. We're going to leave Greg for a moment. But of course, if there's anything that Greg would like to add, please do. So we are going to be reflecting on how was it for you, Frank, to be listening to Greg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I already noticed how just it sort of loosens the conversation in a way with making eye contact. There's something feels like we're in a slightly different. We're still really in the territory, really there to listen. In a focusing like way, but I'm aware that we may be weaving in and out of the process in a slightly different way. There was just a kind of sense of moments where description seemed really important, and then staying with something and how it changed. So I felt there was a kind of roving focus a little bit, or a wider focus, and I didn't feel that Greg needed so much from me.
Yeah, there was a sense that you were really giving him a great deal of space, and yeah, your sense is that he really didn't need much from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I say from my side, first of all, I'm happy if anybody wants to ask me things, except about my dog. From my side, having my eyes open in this case, it felt like I had an opportunity for a kind of a proper debrief. And being able to see Frank, it felt supportive. And then the other time, so because I wanted to tell the story, that was an important part of getting into the felt sense, but also an important part of kind of settling myself. I wanted somebody else to know, so that was easier to do with my eyes open. The only time where I could have closed my eyes was when I was really sensing deeply into my body, and I would kind of look down to really sense in. I could have closed my eyes then, but the looking down felt right. But I noticed it felt, especially with this issue where there is an aspect of it is blame and judgment, to be able to see Frank's response to me, it was helpful.
And how was it for you, Frank, at that point? What was it that was there for you when you were hearing this arena of blame, judgment? How?
Yeah. Well, I felt I felt for Greg.
Yeah.
I really felt for Greg, and I think there's something about the eyes open and the story. Somehow the story almost needs to be there, with eyes open. That somehow being included in the scenario or knowing about the scenario, or having more information on the content seemed important. And I felt the sense of being a kind of witness in a slightly different way, like a witness to something that happened.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
Felt like,
yes.
oh yeah, wow.
Yes.
So there was a kind of witness, a sort of immediacy to it.
That somehow hearing the story helped you to really take the wholeness of what is there, and to the point that yes, you yourself can really feel that, resonate very much with what he was sensing and feeling.
Yeah. I think it made me think a little bit about how when doing something terrible, you want to tell somebody.
Yes.
It's like I felt like I had a specific role where the shameful thing is sort of shared, understood, and then something else could come out of that, like the empowerment movement could come out of that, which I think Greg had already done a bit with the other dog walkers, but I felt that there was something important around that.
Yeah, there was a point when he said something like, just in telling you, it's already something is already changed. And then taking a moment again, just by looking down and checking, oh, so what's there now? Somehow.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed in myself, which I don't think I would have felt if I had my eyes closed, is I was looking at Frank for his response. And there was something about his response that then allowed me to go a little bit further. And I even wanted, but I didn't. And I could have. I even wanted to ask him, like, do you have a dog, or, do you know this experience, or, do you think I'm horrible, or something that I wanted, almost because I was looking at him, almost like I wanted to invite him in a little more.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a quality of me being there rather something more present about me than just being there to facilitate your focusing. There's also something about who I am responding to you, maybe shifted slightly with eyes open.
That somehow with the eyes open, Greg is also taking you in.
So there's a shift. It's not just supporting the I in relation to an it. Also who I am, like there's this triangulation. More of a sense of both of us perhaps, and what Greg's with.
Like there's a we supporting it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to say, Greg? Or...
I'm curious if anyone else had any questions, comments, responses.
Please just unmute yourself if you want to say something. Beverly, did you?
More information is, you maybe even saw me at the very beginning of the day writing a text on my phone. I was texting the dog trainer. So I had already made that move, and yet the feeling in me hadn't changed.
Yeah.
And I think the thing, I was texting her out of self-recrimination, not out of empowerment. And by the end of the session, I felt I can do something about this, which is a very different kind of feeling to go into dog training with than, oh my God, I better do something about this. I'm awful.
So that somehow the experience of being listened to allowed you to sort of navigate through all that territory of felt meaning that was there for you.
Exactly, especially that separation of blame and responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's really useful.
The way it's lived is completely different.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a very different place because we haven't bypassed anything that was there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's an interesting image of the balloon dropping the sandbags.
I do feel like saying I actually have been to some dog training. I'm not completely irresponsible as a dog owner. But the thing that I really noticed that I think we often do, I do, and people do for me, is to offer all sorts of reassurance. Like all the other dog walkers were like, oh, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't, what were they doing out here? And all that happens, you know, it's your turn, it happens to me, blah, blah, blah. None of that helped.
Mm.
And all the other excuses I could give myself or reassurances, you know, what were they doing out there? Why they shouldn't have been there? None of that helped.
Yeah, I had a kind of, not sure if it's a question yet, hasn't fully formed, but on that
feeling. Such a rich territory when suddenly a feeling comes with an era, a particular way of having oneself at a, I don't know, a more innocent or less prepared or time in life. So it's, yeah, as always, that's such a poignant, powerful kind of place. You know, if we had more time, maybe there would have been more time to be with that. It was quite a short